by now everybody has heard about the PI that Dan Hennen has hired. I heard about it the exact same time everybody else did. So it was great. I thought it was awesome. First thing that came to my mind was Hall & Oates, Private Eyes. So made that little video to kind of get that out there, and I think we're just going to make a big push now. We're going to need everybody's help to make a big push towards not necessarily donating, although it would be nice if people would. People need to understand that even if you don't, we're not really worried about it. I know Dan Hennen is not worried about it. He's going to make sure this happens. So I support Dan Hennen. I want him to know that. I want everybody to know that. Even my cat here is scratching something in the background. She knows that. She knows what's up. So I think this is a much needed thing. Like Dan Hennen said, it should have been done a long time ago. Time permitting. Timing is everything. It's good timing right now. And I'm very, very curious to see how this plays out. What the PI finds, what the PI doesn't find. If there's any intimidation tactics, right? Is there any roadblocks that the private investigator is going to find there? So I think anything that helps us get to the truth, not expose the lies and all that stuff, I think a lot of that is pretty much done. If you don't know who the liars are by now and who the frauds are by now, I don't know what to tell you. Unless you're new, unless you're just getting started in this whole thing, then I totally get it. But everybody's got to go down that road. Everybody's got to kind of say, well, you know what? This person here says that. All right, this person is saying that. And I think most people are intelligent enough to piece it and they can decide for themselves as long as they're getting the correct data. So yeah, I don't know. Anybody who doesn't like Tom Selleck, man, if you don't like Tom Selleck, I'm just gonna have to block you, just like that. I'm just kidding. But hey, this is real stuff, real talk, real life, and we have a real private investigator looking at this real case, who's gonna help at least address some of these questions. And like I said, we'll see how far this private investigator gets, but it's a good thing. The whole mediums, remember when the mediums got brought up, I thought that was a good thing. And I'm not for mediums. I don't believe in mediums. I don't believe they have good knowledge, whatever. That's just me, But I also don't want to stand in their way. I'm not trying to stand in the way of anybody who is sincerely trying to get to the truth here. And sometimes that's hard because I do have strong views. And I do tend to just say whatever I want to say. And you know what? I got to be careful with that. As a Christian, I do have to check myself. And I don't mind if other people check me on that too. That's fine. That's what's got to be done. And you know what? If I'm a big enough person, then I'll be able to listen to it and take it seriously, and maybe it'll change some of my views. That's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again. It's kind of what happened with Catherine, because the first that I ever heard about this person, about Catherine, was she was leaving our group. And, I was frustrated, and not frustrated at her, just frustrated at just a lot of things that were happening at that time. And then as Catherine got more involved, and as I actually started to listen to her and listen to what she was saying, it changed my views about Catherine. And it changed a lot of things that I thought about Catherine, a lot of things that I said publicly about Catherine. And right now, I consider her one of my friends. I consider her a fellow believer in Christ, my sister in Christ. Just like I consider Dan Hennen my brother in Christ, and many of you too, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. And even for the people that aren't Christians, who don't want to be Christians, up till a certain point, we can work together and work towards the same goal. And I think when it gets to the point where all of a sudden we're not talking about David Crowley, now we're talking about my Christianity or somebody else's Christianity, I think it can be a very touchy subject. So maybe it's still something I need to work on. But when I was talking about David Crowley, questioning his Christianity, that's a hard thing for me to do, because I don't want to question anybody's Christianity, because I don't know if they're a Christian. I don't know who is and who isn't. They can say whatever, do whatever they want. That doesn't mean anything. But what I do point out is some of the things that David Crowley has said about Christianity or lack thereof, and some of the things that he said about the devil having the Bohemian Grove owl in his office bedroom. Yeah, those things stick out to me. The fact that a Bible was not easily found, but a Quran, yeah, there's a bloody Quran there too. I wonder why not a Bible? What would have been the difference? Because of the whole Allah thing? Because of what David did? Because of where David served? Because he married a Muslim? All of these things don't add up. They just don't add up to me. So, I don't know. I'm not saying he was a Christian. I'm not saying David Crowley was a Satanist. I'm not saying that the Bohemian Grove owl, that he worshipped it or anything like that. I don't know. I want to start with what the facts are. And the facts are that David Crowley has said that he had a soft spot for the Antichrist. He has publicly stated that. One of his notes were to cut down Jesus talk, Jesus stuff. That was a note that was posted on there too. He made a comment about spirituality, and if the Gray State was going to focus on that, it's a good way to get your movie into the dollar bin at a gas station. So he was, he understood a lot of that stuff. Um, that's some of the negative stuff about David that I find. And it doesn't make me want to not research it just because of that. Even if he was a Satanist, even if he was this evil person that some people want to make him out to be, I don't believe it. First of all, I don't buy it. But even if he was, that doesn't make this crime any less valid to me. It really doesn't. It's not like, oh, he was a Christian, so we need to figure out what happened. There's a certain calling to this case, and it is very different than a lot of other cases that I've seen or researched, anything like that. And so I've been struggling with that, because why am I so drawn to this case? This guy I don't know anything about, don't care about as far as his project, the Gray State. I could give two flips about the Gray State back in 2012. I didn't see it. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it more than anything as propaganda. But this just seems like one of those clear-cut cases. And, they burn their own people. These cults and these mafias, whatever you want to call them, they burn their own. These groups, these cliques. It's easier for them to burn somebody who is on their team than it would be for them to burn somebody who's real. That, again, I know I'm just saying these things. I'm not creating a theory and then running with it. And I would just like to caution people who are doing that. So I do hope everybody will think about contributing whatever you can, if you can, to this cause, to the private investigator. And if you can't contribute money, maybe you can just help share it, help get this information out for maybe to other people who are in a spot where they can actually help out financially, or if you can just help spread this word and say, hey, we're serious about this, and Dan is so serious that he's putting up his own money, a lot of money, to get a private investigator, and that's it, and see what happens, see what the private investigator can come up with to help us, whatever it is, whatever the truth is. I don't know the parameters. I don't really want to know the parameters of what Sorry, my cat is kicking the stand here. But I don't really want to know what the parameters are. I don't need to know what they are. I want, I'd love to get a few private investigators to go and check this out, see what they find. But I think anything that a private investigator can find is definitely going to help us. So stay tuned. If it's not already up, there will be a link to where people can help with that GoFundMe. And I never thought that I would be here promoting a GoFundMe or anything like that, because I'm totally against all that stuff. Totally against signing petitions and, donating money to GoFundMe causes. But I feel drawn to this one, and I am going to help. I am going to put in as much money as I possibly can within my own means. And because I want to see this done. I want to see what the private investigator can find, regardless of where it leads. All right. The private investigator obviously is gonna have some challenges, right? We already know about some of those challenges, but the private investigator is going to have some major challenges, and hopefully not as many roadblocks. Now, in other cases that I've seen, I could not remember what the case was, and Dan Hennen might remember what case it was. I remember there was a private investigator hired for some other case. I wish I remembered what this case was, and maybe this would trigger somebody else's memory to help me understand what it was. But there was a case, a private investigator was hired. It could have been the Gary Webb case or something. The private investigator is hired. They do a bunch of research. They're like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this. Don't ever call me. Don't get me involved. It could have been the Philip Marshall case. Dan Hennen might know. I'll have to ask him about that. He's my second brain, pretty much. But, and the private investigator was just like, hit some roadblocks, found some shady stuff, and did not want anything to do with that case. And I'm about 50% sure that it was the Philip Marshall case. Could have been a different one. It was a pretty high profile case too, I remember. But so I'm gonna keep my thoughts positive. We're gonna stay positive about whatever they find, whatever it is. Hey, if the private investigator uncovers something that helps prove David is guilty, I say, okay, great. Nothing is going to be withheld. I don't think, I don't know if people understand that or not, but whatever the private investigator finds, I'm pretty sure Dan Hennen's going to put it all out there for the public to see and to judge for themselves, because that's going to be the best way. That's the way that's worked the best for just finding truth in this case. Not to tell people what they should think, like what the Gray State team does and what other people do. Not to tell you or to belittle you because you're your view or because you think this, but to just say, here is the information, here are the facts. Now it's up to you, how you interpret them and what you do with them. And that's fine. It's the pushback when we do that, and then the resistance and all the games and all these weird things that happen. And then it's just like, wow, they've just exposed themselves to show that they're not sincere people. They're not sincere about finding what really happened, because first of all, either they don't care what really happened, or they're convinced that David Crowley is guilty. Yet they have a problem with us not being convinced that David Crowley is guilty and asking questions. They can't have it both ways. So Tom Selleck is on the job. We'll see what Magnum PI comes up with. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to the results. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be any time limit. I don't know. That's all in the details. And again, nothing that I was made aware of, nothing that I want to be made aware of. I just, I'm just glad that this is happening, that somebody has stepped up, put up their own money, and is going to make it happen. So Dan Hennen, thank you so much, man.